The church bell tolled slowly, each strike heavy as stone. The graveyard lay still under a gray sky, the air sharp with dust and grief. Clara May Harper stood at the edge of the pit, her veil drawn low, her black dress streaked with dirt. They lowered her husband Samuel into the earth. The pine box creaked, ropes straining as it sank into shadow. Clara's hands trembled at her sides, but she did not cry. Her tears had already burned dry in the long nights of waiting. Behind her, whispers stirred. She's cursed. Every man that touches her ends up dead. She walked him straight to his grave. Clara stiffened. The words cut deeper than knives. She had heard them before. After the fire that took her father. After the fever that stole her brother. Now again with Samuel. She could almost believe them. Almost. The preacher's voice rose, speaking of dust and salvation. But Clara barely heard. Her eyes stayed on the coffin, on the rope coils tightening as though to strangle what little was left of her life. The sheriff stood near the fence, hat in hand. Daniel Hurst. His jaw was hard, his gaze steady on her. He had been Samuel's friend, sworn to protect the town. Now he watched Clara as though she were the last thread keeping him tied to decency. The gambler lingered too, leaning against a cedar post. Silas Crane. His coat was worn, his face carved with shadow. He did not belong here, but Clara felt his eyes as keenly as the sheriff's. The coffin hit bottom with a dull thud. The sound echoed through her chest, hollowing her out. The men began to shovel dirt, the clods striking wood like muffled gunshots. Clara whispered Samuel's name, the sound breaking in her throat. Still no tears came. She only stood straighter, her veil fluttering in the dry wind. When it was done, the crowd drifted away. Some offered tight nods, others spat into the dust. No one lingered long. No one wanted her shadow near. Clara stayed. She knelt by the fresh mound, pressing her hand to the soil. The earth was still warm from the sun, still loose, still raw. Her lips trembled. "I don't know how to live without you," silence answered. At last, footsteps approached. Slow, measured. Sheriff Hurst stopped beside her. His voice was low. "You should come home. Folks are looking for reason to turn mean. Best not give them more." Clara rose, her veil slipping back enough for him to see her eyes. Grief, hollow and sharp. "Let them talk." The sheriff's jaw tightened. He wanted to say more, but he only tipped his hat and walked away. The gambler came next. Silas Crane, boots scuffing the dirt. He didn't speak at first, only studied her with those tired, restless eyes. At last he said, "Some curses ain't real, ma'am. Just men afraid of what they can't have." Clara's breath caught. She met his gaze for a heartbeat too long. Then she turned, walking past him without a word. The town looked smaller that evening. The sun sank low, casting long shadows across the boardwalks. Clara walked alone, her veil trailing, every eye on her. Women pulled children close. Men muttered. Doors shut as she passed. At home, the silence was worse. Samuel's boots still sat by the door, his pipe on the table, his coat hanging by the bed. She touched each one, her fingers trembling, her chest aching with the ghost of his voice. She lit a lamp, the flame small, weak against the dark. The house smelled of wood smoke and dust. Outside, the wind moaned through the prairie grass. She removed her veil and set it on the table. It still carried the scent of smoke from the graveyard, sharp and bitter. She pressed it to her face, whispering, "Why did you leave me?" The only answer was the creak of the shutters, the groan of the floorboards. She dreamed of fire that night. Samuel calling her name, reaching through the smoke, his face lost in the glow. She woke gasping, her hands clawing at empty air. At dawn, she washed her face in cold water, braided her hair, and pulled the veil on once more. The mirror showed a woman carved from grief, her eyes dark hollows, her lips pale. When she stepped into the street, the saloon doors swung open across the way. Men spilled out, laughter sharp, whiskey thick on their breath. Their eyes caught her black figure, and the laughter died. One spat into the dust. "Widow walks again." Another muttered, "Best steer clear. Ain't no man lives long near her." Clara walked on, her boots striking hard against the boards. She kept her head high, though her stomach twisted with every word. By evening, she stood at Samuel's grave again, the sky streaked red with sunset. Sheriff Hurst was there too, hat low, hands on his belt. He nodded once but said nothing. Silas Crane came after dark, cigarette glowing faint in the shadows. He leaned against the fence, his voice rough. "Widow, you can let 'em kill you with words. Or you can walk into their den and make 'em choke on it." Clara turned, her veil lifting in the wind. "And what den is that?" Silas flicked ash into the dirt. His smile was thin. "The saloon. Every man that cursed you today will be there tonight. You want your place back in this town, you take it in front of their eyes." Her chest ached. Fear pricked her skin, but something else burned too, rage sharp and steady. She nodded once, her voice steady. "Then I'll walk." And as night fell, the widow in black turned toward the saloon, her veil trailing like smoke. The saloon doors creaked open, swinging slow. Smoke drifted out thick with whiskey and sweat. Piano keys clanged somewhere inside, a tune sloppy and mean. Laughter rolled, sharp and careless, until the figure in black stepped through. Clara May Harper, the widow. Her veil hung low, her black dress brushing the floorboards. Boots scuffed, spurs jingled. Men froze where they sat, cards half raised, glasses caught midair. The piano faltered, the sound breaking like a bone. The barkeep's rag stilled on a glass. His eyes narrowed. "Widow," Clara lifted her chin. Her voice carried through the smoke. "Whiskey." A hush spread. One man barked a laugh, but it died quick. No one moved at first. Then the barkeep poured, the amber liquid sloshing hard. He slid the glass across the bar. The sound was sharp as judgment. Clara's hand trembled when she caught it. She raised it slow, her veil shifting with her breath. The burn hit her tongue, fire rolling down her throat. She did not flinch. Whispers stirred behind her. "She's cursed. Every man she touches falls dead. She's looking for another." She set the glass down, the thud heavy in the quiet. Her eyes scanned the room. Faces turned away, but not all. Some stared, hungry, angry, afraid. In the corner, Sheriff Daniel Hurst leaned in shadow, his eyes fixed on her, steady, unreadable. He lifted his glass, slow, deliberate. For a moment, their gazes locked. At another table, Silas Crane, the gambler, leaned back in his chair, cigarette glowing faint in the smoke. His lips curved, not into a smile, but something sharper. He tapped ash into the tray, watching her like a man who'd already placed his bet. The tension cut deep. Clara turned back to the bar, her voice even. "Another?" The barkeep poured, slower this time, his hand unsteady. She drank again, her throat raw, her chest burning. She wanted the fire to match the one inside her, the one that had burned since the graveyard. A chair scraped. Heavy boots struck wood. A rancher swaggered forward, his face red, his grin cruel. He leaned on the bar beside her. "Widow," he drawled, "they say every man who loves you ends in the dirt. Reckon you're drinking to find the next." The room held its breath. Clara turned, her veil brushing her cheek. Her eyes met his, cold and steady. "Reckon you want to test it?" The rancher barked a laugh, too loud, too sharp. But beneath it, fear flickered. He stepped back, muttering, "Cursed." He slunk away, his laughter hollow. Sheriff Hurst's chair scraped then. He rose, crossing the room slow, his boots echoing heavy. He stopped at her side, his presence filling the space. "That's enough," he said, his voice low but firm. Clara's chest tightened. She felt the weight of his nearness, the steadiness of his gaze. For a moment it was almost comfort. Almost. But comfort in the sheriff's eyes meant danger. Silas Crane's laugh cut through the room, soft, mocking. "Careful, Hurst. A man can lose more than cards sitting too close to her." The sheriff's jaw clenched. His hand twitched near his holster. The gambler's eyes glittered, daring him. Clara's voice cut sharp. "I don't need either of you." The words sliced through the smoke. For a heartbeat, the whole room froze. Then the piano stumbled back to life. Cards slapped. Glasses clinked. The saloon breathed again, though the tension clung thick as smoke. Clara finished her drink, setting the glass down firm. Her hand trembled, but her voice did not when she said, "Any man afraid of me ought to fear himself first." She turned, her veil trailing, and walked through the saloon. Men parted, chairs scraping, eyes following like wolves too wary to strike. When the doors swung closed behind her, whispers surged. "She'll ruin them both, sheriff and gambler. She's death in black. She ain't done yet." Outside, the night air was cool, sharp against her flushed skin. The stars burned cold above, the wind carrying dust across the street. Clara pulled her veil tighter, her heart hammering. Behind her, the doors creaked again. Footsteps followed. She didn't turn. She already knew one would follow for duty. the other for desire. Both would meet their end because of her. And still she walked into the night, her shadow long against the dust. The morning after the saloon, Clara stepped into the street with her veil pulled low. The sun was sharp, the air already heavy with heat. Still, the chill of last night clung to her bones. The town was awake early. Women swept porches, men hitched wagons, children ran with dusty feet. But every head turned when Clara passed. She drank with them, someone muttered. With the sheriff. With the gambler. She's drawing them both to their graves. Clara's jaw tightened. She walked faster, her boots striking the boards like hammer blows. The whispers followed, louder, sharper. At the well, 2 women filled buckets. They did not lower their voices. My husband says she's a curse. Then he'd best stay clear unless he's tired of breathing. They laughed, the sound like knives slicing thin. Clara kept her eyes forward, though her throat burned. The sheriff came down the boardwalk, hat low, stride steady. His gaze met hers, lingering a moment too long. Whispers surged hotter. She's got him now. Even the law can't save him. Daniel Hurst tipped his hat, his voice low. Morning, Mrs. Harper. Her name, spoken with respect, should have steadied her. Instead, it made her knees weak. She nodded quickly, pulling her veil lower. Across the street, Silas Crane leaned in the doorway of the Mercantile, cigarette glowing faint. His grin was thin, sharp as glass. He flicked ash into the dirt and called, Careful, Sheriff. That veil hides more than grief. Laughter rippled from the men nearby. Clara's chest seized. The sheriff's eyes hardened. Mind your tongue, Crane. Silas exhaled smoke, his gaze never leaving Clara. Just speaking truth. This town feeds on it, Clara wanted to scream, to strike them all silent. Instead, she gripped her shawl and walked faster, the heat pressing like a weight. By afternoon, the gossip had grown into stories. At the tailor's, she overheard it through the wall. They say the sheriff sat close enough to touch her hand. They say the gamblers already claimed her. They say any man who loves her dies by dawn. Her heart pounded. She fled into the street, the words chasing like wolves. At the church, the preacher spoke of temptation, of women who led men astray. His eyes slid toward her, just long enough for the crowd to murmur. Clara's breath caught. She stood and left, her veil snapping in the wind. That night she sat at Samuel's grave, the earth cool beneath her hands. The stars shimmered above, distant and cold. Why won't they let me mourn you? She whispered. Why must every breath I take damn another man? The wind carried no answer, only the creak of trees, the low cry of a coyote. Footsteps came soft behind her. She turned, heart racing. Silas Crane stood at the fence, his face shadowed. Town's making you their story, he said. Every lie fattens their bellies. Every truth dies in the dust. Clara rose, her hands trembling. Then why feed it, Silas? Why add to their poison? His smile was crooked, bitter. Because I know poison. I've lived on it. And I reckon you've got enough fire in you to burn the whole town down if you wanted. Her breath hitched. His eyes glittered in the dark, dangerous, daring. She turned away, whispering, Leave me be. But he didn't. His voice followed her, soft and sharp. You'll find no peace, widow. Not till blood spills. And it will. The next day, Sheriff Hurst knocked on her door. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried worry. Clara, you've got to be careful. They're saying things that'll turn men violent. Her throat tightened. And what do you say, Sheriff? He hesitated. His hand brushed the brim of his hat. I say I don't believe curses. I say you're a woman grieving. But his jaw set hard. I can't ignore what folks are ready to do. Her voice cracked. Then you'll protect me? His eyes softened, a flicker of something more than duty. With my life. Her chest ached. She wanted to reach for him, to cling to his vow. But in that moment, the truth of the whispers cut her deeper. If he loved her, he would die. That evening at the saloon, voices carried through the night. The sheriff's fallen for her. Mark my words, he won't see next week. And the gambler? He'll meet his end sooner. The piano played on, drowning in laughter. But Clara sat in her house, lantern dim, her hands pressed to her face. Every whisper echoed. Every vow weighed heavy. She could not escape it. She could not silence it. The town had already written her fate. Every man who loved her would die by dawn. The night was still, the kind that made every creak of the house sound louder. Clara sat at her table, a single lantern burning low. The flame flickered, throwing shadows long across the walls. She held Samuel's old Colt in her lap, its weight both comfort and curse. Then boots, slow, outside her door. Her breath caught. She rose, the floor groaning under her feet. The Colt was cold in her hand, her finger trembling near the trigger. The knock came. 3 sharp raps, she froze. The door pushed open. The lantern flame shook as the draft swept through. Shadow filled the frame. Silas Crane. His hat was low, his coat wet from the night air. His revolver gleamed in his hand. Clara's voice broke the silence. "Why are you here?" His eyes, sharp even in the dim light, fixed on her. "Because I can't sleep. Not with the town talking. Not with every fool ready to put a bullet in me for looking at you too long." Her chest tightened. She stepped back. "Then stay away. You'll only make it worse." Silas moved closer, his boots slow on the floorboards. His revolver shook faintly in his grip, though his voice stayed steady. "I've lived with worse. But I'll be damned if I watch you stand alone while they sharpen their knives." Clara raised her Colt, her breath unsteady. "You don't understand. Every man that stood too close, Samuel, my father, even the sheriff now, they all—" Her voice faltered. "They all end the same." Silas's mouth curled into a bitter half-smile. "Then I reckon my grave's already waiting." The room thickened with silence. The lantern hissed. Clara's hands shook, torn between pushing him out and begging him to stay. Then another sound broke the stillness. Boots again, heavier this time. Outside. Clara's eyes widened. Silas's revolver lifted steady now. He motioned her behind him. The latch rattled. The door shoved hard. Sheriff Daniel Hurst stepped inside, his revolver drawn, his eyes hard with suspicion. His gaze swept from Silas to Clara, then back. "What in God's name is this?" Clara's breath came sharp. She lowered her Colt, her voice trembling. "Sheriff, it isn't—" But Silas cut her off, his grin sharp, mocking. "Looks just like what they're saying, don't it?" The sheriff's jaw clenched. His revolver didn't lower. "You'd best step away from her, Crane." Silas's eyes narrowed. "And if I don't?" The air crackled, thick with gunpowder that hadn't yet been fired. Clara's heart pounded, her body frozen between them. "Stop," she whispered. Her voice was soft but sharp as a blade. "You'll both die if you keep on." Neither moved. The sheriff's chest heaved. Silas's revolver gleamed steady in the lamplight. Clara stepped forward, her shawl slipping from her shoulders. Her voice broke, but she forced the words. "Do you want me cursed? Do you want to prove them right? Then kill each other now and let the town feed on it." The sheriff's hand faltered just enough. His jaw worked, his eyes torn between duty and something deeper. Silas exhaled, a bitter laugh under his breath. He holstered his revolver slow, though his eyes never left the sheriff. "Not tonight." The sheriff lowered his gun, but his voice came low, hard. "This ends here, Clara. No more saloons. No more whispers. If you let this man near you again, I won't be able to save you." Clara's throat burned. "And if I don't let him near me?" The sheriff's gaze softened just for a moment. "Then maybe you'll live." He turned and left, his boots heavy on the boards, the door slamming hard behind him. The silence left in his wake was suffocating. Clara turned to Silas, her hands trembling. "You should go too." For once, the gambler didn't grin. His eyes lingered on her, raw with something close to sorrow. "If I go, you'll be alone. And alone's worse than cursed." Her breath shook. She wanted to scream, to cry, to tell him he was wrong. But her voice came only as a whisper. "Go." Silas tipped his hat low, his jaw tight. He stepped into the night, his boots fading into the dark. Clara sank to her knees, the Colt slipping from her hand. Tears burned at last, hot and heavy, spilling through her veil. Above her, the lantern flickered out, plunging the room into silence. And outside, in the shadows, 2 men walked away with their hands near their guns, each knowing the next time one would not walk back. The moon hung low, swollen and red as if it knew what was coming. The town was silent, the streets empty, windows shuttered tight. Word had spread, too many whispers, too much heat. Tonight something would break. Clara stood at her window, veil pulled loose, her hands clutching the sill. Her chest ached with every breath. She had begged them both to stay away. She had prayed for silence. But men never listened when pride was at stake. Boots struck the dust outside. 2 pairs, slow, heavy. Sheriff Daniel Hurst and Silas Crane faced each other in the middle of the street. Both hands hovered near their guns. Shadows stretched long across the dirt, the moon casting everything in silver and fire. "You should have left town, Crane," the sheriff said, his voice steady but sharp. "You don't belong here." Silas's grin was thin, bitter. "And you reckon you do? You think wearing that badge means she's yours to keep safe? Or yours to keep at all?" The sheriff's jaw tightened. This ain't about her, but both men knew it was. Clara rushed to the door, her shawl trailing as she stepped into the street. Her voice broke the silence, trembling but fierce. "Stop this, please!" The gambler's eyes flicked to her, softening for a moment. The sheriff's gaze held, steady and torn. From the shadows, another figure stepped forward, a man with a scar cut deep across his cheek, eyes hard as stone. The outlaw, Jed Monroe? He had ridden with Samuel once long ago. Now he stood with a pistol loose in his grip, his voice cold. "Seems the widow collects men the way death collects graves." "I'll claim her next," Clara gasped, stumbling back. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The sheriff raised his revolver. Silas did the same. Jed's grin widened. The air thickened, every breath sharp as glass. Clara screamed. "No," the guns roared, 1, 2, 3 shots. The night split wide, the echoes crashing through the street. Smoke curled in the moonlight, thick and acrid. When it cleared, Jed Monroe lay in the dust, blood spreading dark beneath him. The sheriff staggered, clutching his side, crimson soaking his shirt. Silas stood with his revolver smoking, chest heaving, his eyes fixed on Clara. She ran to the sheriff, catching him before he fell. "Daniel!" Her voice cracked, raw. His blood stained her hands, hot and slick. His lips parted, his voice a whisper. "Clara, I told you, I'd protect you." Her tears blurred everything. "Don't speak." "Hold on!" But Silas's voice cut through, rough and heavy. "He's gone, Clara. Nothing you do will stop it." Her head snapped up. Fury and grief tangled in her chest. You brought this. Both of you." Silas's jaw clenched. His revolver slipped from his hand, landing in the dust with a dull thud. "I never wanted it. I only wanted—" His words faltered. His eyes, for once, were bare. "I only wanted you." Clara's throat closed. She pressed her hands to the sheriff's wound, but the blood kept coming, hot and endless. Daniel's gaze faded, softening like dawn. "Let me, do knowing you'll live," his last breath left with the words. His body sagged, still in her arms. Clara's scream tore through the empty street, raw and endless. She rocked him against her chest, her veil falling into the blood-soaked dirt. Silas stepped closer, his face pale, haunted. "Clara." She turned on him, eyes burning through tears. "Every man who's loved me is dead because of this curse. And now it's your turn." He shook his head, voice breaking. "Then let it be. I'd rather fall loving you than keep breathing without you." Her tears blurred, her heart shattering with every word. She looked at the sheriff, at the outlaw, at the blood smeared across her hands. Death surrounded her, wrapped in her shadow. The gambler knelt in the dirt before her, his eyes never leaving hers. His voice came soft, trembling. "I ain't asking for your love, Clara. Only that when my time comes, you'll remember I stood for you." Her breath caught. She wanted to scream at him to leave, to live, to break the curse by walking away. But the words tangled in her throat. All she could do was weep, her hands red, her heart hollow. The moon dipped low. The street was silent again, save for the crackle of lanterns and the whisper of wind. 3 men had stood for her tonight. 2 already lay in the dirt. The third waited for dawn. The sky bled pale gold when the first rooster crowed. The saloon stood silent, doors swinging in the morning wind. Dust drifted across the street, carrying the smell of gunpowder and blood. 3 bodies lay in the dirt. Sheriff Daniel Hurst, his badge bent beneath crimson. Jed Monroe, the outlaw, his eyes wide and glassy. And Silas Crane, the gambler, slumped with his revolver still in hand, his final breath stolen sometime before dawn. Clara May Harper stood alone among them. Her veil hung torn, streaked with dust and blood. Her shawl dragged in the dirt as she knelt, pressing trembling hands to Silas's chest, though she knew it was useless. His skin was cold already, his face gray beneath the rising sun. She whispered his name, once, twice. The sound broke apart in her throat. The town gathered in silence, men with hats in hand, women clutching their children. No one spoke. They only watched, their eyes sharp with fear, with judgment, with something close to pity. The curse, someone muttered. Clara heard it. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. She pressed her forehead to Silas's, tears soaking his hair. The preacher stepped forward, his Bible heavy in his hands. "We'll bury them," he said softly. But Clara rose, her voice steady though her body shook. "No, leave them. Let the dust have them. It's what this town wanted." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some turned away. Some nodded slow, as though she had spoken truth too sharp to deny. She walked down the street, her veil trailing, her boots striking hard against the boards. Each step echoed like a hammer against her heart. She passed the saloon, the church, the jailhouse, all the places where whispers had bloomed into death. The town parted for her, eyes following, mouths silent. No one dared reach for her. No one dared speak. She was not woman now, but shadow, grief made flesh. At Samuel's grave, she fell to her knees, her shawl tangled in the grass, her hands pressed to the mound. "I tried," she whispered, her voice raw. "I tried to keep them from you. But they came anyway. They always come," the wind answered, sweeping her veil across the dirt. The prairie stretched endless, the sky wide and merciless. By mid-morning, the bodies were gone, carried out past the ridge. No hymns, no markers. Only dust covering dust. The town moved on as it always did, but Clara felt the weight of them still, pressing against her chest, heavy as stone. That night she lit a lamp in her empty house. She set Samuel's boots by the door, his coat across the chair. She placed Silas's discarded cigarette case beside them, and the sheriff's badge, bent and bloodied, she laid on the table, her shrine of ghosts. She sat in silence, staring at the flame until her eyes burned. "You loved me," she whispered to the emptiness. "And it killed you." Her tears fell again, softer this time. No screams, no sobs, only the quiet ache of a heart hollowed out. When dawn came again, she walked to the edge of town. The horizon stretched gold, the prairie rolling like an ocean. She carried nothing but her veil, now gray with dust. She turned once, looking back at the town. The streets empty, the windows still. No voices rose. No eyes watched. Her shadow stretched long in the morning light. Alone, she whispered into the wind, her voice soft as prayer. "Every man who loved me is gone, and still I walk." The wind carried her words across the grass, scattering them like ashes. Then she stepped forward, her figure shrinking into the horizon, swallowed by the endless sky. The town would remember her as curse, as widow, as shadow. But the truth was simpler, sharper. She was the woman every man had died for, and by dawn she was the only one left alive to bear it.